All right, we are on the dot of the hour, 1:30 Pacific time. So we're going to just wait a couple minutes before we actually get started. I think people are still dropping in as we speak. So just a couple minutes. So welcome everybody that's on right now to our webinar.
Yep, they're pouring in now.
David asked me to sing. David asked
Go ahead,
me to
Fawn.
sing earlier, but I will not be.
Sing your best Taylor Swift song. Probably got a lot of Swifties on here.
I got kids in that generation, so yes. You know, I mean, I meet just even the grandmas are, you know, into the Taylor Swift. I mean, it's all generation.
Yeah.
It's wild.
She is quite the phenom.
Saw the Disney Plus. I saw the Disney Plus concert thing. It was actually really good.
Yeah, she's talented, that's for sure.
Man, she's been around too, so that's like, you know, good for her.
Yeah. Cool. Maybe we give it 2 more minutes.
Yep. Yeah, I see the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Hello to everybody who just joined, just giving it a couple more minutes as people jump in.
I see a lot of names of friends here.
Mm-hmm. So, Ari, how's the weather on the East Coast?
It's about 70-something degrees. My wife keeps the house at like 68 degrees, so I got to wear a sweatshirt and all that. And
that's better than the alternative. I'd rather be cool than hot.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah.
I'm so the opposite. I'm a SoCal girl at heart. So
Your blood's not getting
not yet.
thinner in Texas.
Not yet.
I like the heat. It was I like the heat when I was in Texas in May. That was a lot of fun. It's humid, but I like the heat.
Yeah. I just got back from Cancun, so like it's my kind of jam is that heat. My family thinks I'm crazy.
Well, Funk, I guess we can start the intro as people continue to jump in and get the show on the road.
All right. So once again, welcome everybody to our webinar today, Curb Your 401k Enthusiasm here. We have a really special presentation or presenter, if you will. So before we get started, I just want to introduce myself. I am Fong Jennings with EGPS. For those of you that don't know who we are, because I know we've got you know, a bunch of Southern California advisors for the most part on our call. EGPS, we are a national TPA, and so we cover really all the 50 states. We've got folks like myself. My counterpart, Tali Vaughn, could not join us. She regrets not being able to join, but she is in our San Diego market. I cover Orange County, and then we both kind of pretty much cover SoCal. And then with that, we have Dave King here as well. And so I'll let Dave introduce himself. And oh, just real quick on that, as far as national presence, we stay in our lane. All we do is the compliance, the nerdy work when it comes to designing your clients' retirement plans and making sure that they stay in compliance for all the regulatory filings and regulations. And I'll pitch it over to Dave to introduce himself and his teammates.
Thank you, Fawn. Appreciate that. On behalf of my counterparts in Northern California, the Bay Area, Pacific Northwest, and Los Angeles, we certainly appreciate you all joining us this afternoon. And it's great to collaborate with EGPS to give something back to you as valued partners of ours, because we certainly could not do what we do without you doing what you do. So we thank you for that. If it's been a while since you've connected with your local RVP, we'd love to set up some time to get caught up. For those of you not aware, we have a wealth of resources that not only help you grow your block, but also help you to protect your block. So whether you're newer to the plan space or a grizzled veteran, we can certainly help. Our objective is to meet you right where you are and take you wherever you want to go. So really, with more plan prospecting going on these days, there's never been a better time to benchmark your block. And we can help you ultimately determine how your plans stack up to their national peers, really on all key levels. And I always like to say it's much better to be proactive than reactive when it comes to optimizing your block. So let us help keep the cats out of the hen house and perform the necessary due diligence, with you. As far as market share, we're still the national leader in the 1 to 5 space, but also recently won the 2023 Advisor's Choice Award in the mid-market space, which is going to be the 10 to 100 AUM space. And I'd say we're sometimes mistakenly typecast as a small plan provider, which is certainly far from the truth. From our legacy platform, which is signature to our OpenArc NAV platform, Enterprise, our combination of best-in-class service and cutting-edge technology, I would say would stack up to any provider out there. And we would ask you, please put us to the test as far as that's concerned. Lastly, I have to brag about our mobile app. It recently not only won the best retirement services app, but the best financial services app altogether. So if you haven't seen a demo of that, please reach out. Let us know. We'd be happy to either send you a link or walk through it with you. But I just look at that as another sign of our commitment to keep getting better. So with that, I'll get off my soapbox and get you to what you came for. So I'll pass it on back to Fong to introduce our key speaker. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. So I have the privilege to talk a little bit about Ari before he speaks and presents. But I grew up where Ari's name was like a legend. And so when I say that, because we all have grown to love his amazing articles that we would pass around. And so when I met Ari, it was like the, pension nerd starstruck, if you will. So I'm really excited to have him be a part of our webinar. And so you're in for a treat. So without further ado, Ari Rosenbaum.
Thank you so much. Hopefully you guys see the slideshow. I just want to point out that I am still a proud member of the California Bar. For those who don't know, I took the New York State Bar in 97, took the Massachusetts Bar that following February. In July 98, for some apparent reason, I took the California Bar. And if you sit 3 days in Long Beach and you actually pass the exam, you're going to pay the bar fee no matter what. So for 26 years, I'm still paying the inactive fee, but I just want to point that out. Still, it's top 10 accomplishments of my life. I still think California Bar is more prestigious than the New York State Bar. It's just much more difficult. But anyway, curb your 401k enthusiasm. Here's a little warning. These are opinions. Opinions are opinions. They aren't wrong unless based on incorrect facts. So a lot of times with people, I always like these Facebook community groups, people have an opinion and people start fighting over nonsense. People have shared, like, for example, it's well known that I don't like payroll providers as TPAs. Just that's based on my experience. And so when people who work for these payroll provider TPAs or plan sponsors who have these payroll provider TPAs, they are upset with what I have to say. But that's just an opinion. and speaking about opinions, Curb Your Enthusiasm is one of my favorite shows of all time. I'm now north of 50, and the older I get, the more I feel like Larry David, in the sense that being able to say what you feel. But the beauty of the show is there are a lot of times where Larry will say something and he will be an absolute hypocrite. And like I said, the older I get, the more I feel like Larry. And I just had to put a picture of one of my favorite scenes from the show, the Palestinian chicken episode with Marty Funkhauser, played by Bob Einstein, may he rest in peace, and just not explaining why he would eat at the Palestinian chicken place. If Rabin could break bread with Arafat, he could eat there, which I just was totally ad-libbed and to me totally funny. And of course, here's the cursor. Okay. These are now my peeves that, could probably be a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. Number one pet peeve I find is that 401k plan sponsors are reactive. They are not proactive. So for example, in my practice, I've been touting this retirement plan tune-up, which is a plan review. I've been touting it now for 14 years, and I probably have done less than 10 of them because plan sponsors only call ERISA attorneys when things break, when they get the threatening letter from the IRS, when there's an audit. Been dealing with an accountant, and every doctor plan he has, they're being disqualified because of affiliated service group issues and control group issues. You'll find that plan sponsors don't reach out and try to fix things before they break down. And I'm sure you guys really know that. Number two on my list is deconversion fees up by upset 401k TPAs. Now, I get fired by a client. I don't charge them a fee. Advisor tends not to charge a fee. We have this practice in the retirement plan business that third-party administrators who do get fired can charge a deconversion fee. The problem most of the time is that they're not fully disclosed. So I had a situation where I was working on a MEP, and the TPA in question was very, very upset that we fired them and wanted to overcharge us for 5,500s and valuation reports that the plan had already paid as part of their annual fee. That's something that, Department of Labor has claimed that they will discuss and talk about one day, and I think that is certainly an issue. Number three on my hit list, I recently had an event in Yankee Stadium last week on Friday. Nice turnout. We had Jim Leyritz was our guest. Advertising for the event for advisors to attend, it's always a challenge, but I had a couple phone calls with advisors who saw my invitation and felt that there was a reason to try to sell me their services. Now, I know thousands of advisors around the country. Most of my clients are referred to me by advisors and or TPAs. So I don't get very many plan sponsors that don't have an advisor. So I can't refer plans who have an advisor to another advisor. I'd be out of business then. But more importantly, if I did have clients that I needed to refer to, am I going to refer them to the advisors that I know for about 15 years or 20 years, or am I going to refer them to somebody who just picked up the call, phone and tried to call me? Next on my hit list, everyone trying to sell me something. I don't know how it is with you guys as advisors, but every day there's 5 to 10 emails about, services for attorneys or IT support and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, it's just too much. And I always love when they try to sell me services thinking I'm a litigator instead of an ERISA attorney. Last but not least, non-ERISA attorneys who don't know ERISA. I went to law school, and that's when I discovered why people don't like lawyers. ERISA attorneys know a thing or two about ERISA. Non-ERISA attorneys don't. And I'm always amused by people who are not ERISA attorneys trying to tell me what ERISA says or what the Internal Revenue Code says about plans. I had that experience a few weeks back, talking about, I believe, the control group rules and the spousal exception. And he's like, well, how many years have you been in the business? And I'm like, you know what? You're not an ERISA attorney. I am. I think I know the rules, one of the basic rules. So to curb your enthusiasm, the fiduciary rule, it's deja vu all over again. The Biden White House tries again. We know the Obama White House tried, Trump White House, Biden White House tries again. The biggest focus to me, obviously, is the rules on rollovers. There are a lot of abuses out there. The other changes, not as earth-shattering. We just had recently a case that I think is typical of what the rule is trying to stop. TIA CREF has recently been sued. You have four, I believe there are four plaintiffs at different 403Bs, different universities, and they were suing because TIA CREF was trying to tout their managed account business, the managed account rollover, that obviously they get paid more for the managed accounts than they would within the 403B plans. So there's actually a lawsuit. And what's interesting is the universities are not actually defendants in the case. The problem with the fiduciary rule is obviously 2024, we have a presidential election in November. It is quite possible that Trump may win. And the rule will be in place in September. So what happens in November may change everything. It happened last time when we had the Obama rule come into play. I worked for a lot of providers to try to get them acclimated to the rule and change their contracts and change their business practices. And voila, Trump beat Clinton. And then that rule, of course, eventually went by the wayside. The struggle of PEPs, short brief history of the MEP PEP world. In MEPs 2012, there was advisory opinion. Department of Labor said multiple employer plans where there's no commonality or nexus between adopting employers was not a single plan for ERISA purposes. So that kind of killed off the open MEPs. Trump tried to push them to issue regulations on the MEP rule to allow for open MEPs. Department of Labor pushed back and just regurgitated that 2012 advisory opinion for our friends at TAG. And eventually PEPs were made into law by Congress and Trump. Department of Labor, of course, didn't want to get into that area. And so therefore, we had this little thing called COVID. Rules coming out, everything was kind of like done haphazard. We had a Form PR that came out weeks before PEPs went into play. And it's still been a lot of moving away around and trying to feel your way through the process. Right now, the Department of Labor, we still have no guidance on any conflicts of interest. You know, there are TPAs that are the PPP, the plan sponsor, and the TPA. In that situation, my question is, how will they ever get fired? They're not going to fire themselves. And of course, one of the problems with PEPs is when the law passed, it was premised on the idea that PEPs would require an audit only if they had 1,000 participants or more, or an adopting employer with 100 or more participants, now with account balances. And the Department of Labor said, no, no, no. They said it sometime last year. Forget that, what you think. We are going to require an audit for PEPs that have 100 or more participants. And that was a problem because I work with TPAs that wanted to set up PEPs. And the idea was they're going to only limit it to 999 employees or participating employers with less than 100. This is what they were expecting. You know, small PEPs are struggling. Plenty closed before this audit rule change. Many more will. Doesn't stop everybody from starting their own PEP. Just talked to a friend of mine who just joined an advisory group, and what's the first thing out of his mouth? He's like, "Well, you know what? We're going to try to start our own PEP. We're going to put all our PEP plans in the PEP, and voila!" And that's just not reality. You know, and like I will discuss in the last slide, you know, the PEP, it's a great idea, it's a great concept. It's not for everybody. You know, some PEPs were just as bad as the Spice Store with Latte, you know, the Spice Store with Latte Larry. I actually met Mocha Joe recently at a sci-fi horror convention back in April. With a lot of advisors, again, they were touting the PEP, but there was never going to be a large business base to support it. And not everybody needs to have their own branded PEP. Listen, I looked into one, and the pricing I got was more expensive than if I had a plan sponsor start a plan, a standalone plan. And like I said, a lot of PEPs going out of business. There'll be consolidation. Too many providers offered one. Plan sponsors still don't understand it. The costs show that there really is no savings. And the beauty of PEPs to me is fiduciary delegation. That's the play I would do if I was going to market. And state IRA programs are room for growth. Obviously, you got Cal Savers, New York. Eventually, one day we'll have a program. I know New Jersey pushed a program through, and it's still not up and running. But that, to me, is where state IRA programs. I know Oregon is going to have one really, really soon. Washington State. So everybody's going to have that. And to me, that is the place to be for PEPs. The funny thing about crypto, I think crypto right now is what, Bitcoin $68,000. I only know that because I own Bitcoin, but I would never offer it within a 401k plan. Why? Number one, Department of Labor is against it. There's been litigation over their opinion. You know, it was easy to be against Bitcoin and Ethereum when it slumped, which is when providers offered it. I think when Fidelity and For Us All came up with the idea, hey, you know, let's push crypto into the 401k plan, it was probably 60 something thousand. And when it came to the marketplace, it was about 1920. Obviously, crypto is more than double now. It's well over 65,000. I always got to adjust my slide every week, depending on what it is. And I actually had to look today what it was to make sure that my pricing was correct. I think last week I had it over 60. ETFs, the spot, Bitcoin ETFs, the eventual Ethereum ETFs, it's going to make it harder for the Department of Labor to continue to say no. Obviously, with the money from the ETFs, it's going to make the cryptocurrencies less volatile, and a good chance that they would be approved as an ETF. You know, the problem, of course, now is brokerage windows, whatever participant wants to buy into an ETF, and, you know, they kind of can. And, you know, with the warning with Fidelity and For Us All, if you're allowing for the window through their program, chances are if the Department of Labor would get that list, they would audit you. And that's not something I would recommend 401k plans do. Forfeit it. That's one of my favorite movies is Donnie Brasco. Definitely one of the best gangster movies. Another Al Pacino classic, Johnny Depp. And there's a great scene where the Bonanno family members who are part of a crew are trying to make their weekly take, and they take one of the New York City parking meters and start hitting it with a hammer to get the coins. I think in those days it was might have been 10 cents for to park a meter in New York City. You know, it's a quarter for 20 minutes or 50 cents for like a half hour. Really depends where you are. There's always going to be these ERISA litigators looking for lawsuits, looking for litigation, and they have it with forfeitures now. Recently, they had lawsuits dealing with the BlackRock TDF funds. They failed miserably on. Now they're focusing on forfeitures. Back in the day, Fong was telling me beforehand that she was drafting plan documents around the time when I started in this business, drafting plan documents. And in those days, you were dealing with forfeitures. You could use it to reallocate or reduce contributions. Starting with, I think, probably starting with the egg restatement, you could use it to pay plan expenses and or reduce or reallocate. Now, all these large employers are getting sued because they're using forfeitures to reduce their contribution. You know, in Yiddish, we call that, well, I use the word schnorrer, which is, in my mind, a cheapskate. They use the forfeitures to reduce employer contributions. And of course, when you have the option to reduce plan expenses, theoretically, the plan sponsor, by reducing contributions, using it to reduce contributions, is having their plan participants pay more on plan expenses. And so that's why you have these lawsuits against very large corporations. You know, the problem is we've always been allowed to do it this way. But the question is, what is the better law? The Internal Revenue Code that allows you to do this, or ERISA, which is dealing with prohibited transactions and is reducing an employer contribution, using forfeitures as reduction of employer contributions? Is that a prohibited transaction? That's a $64,000 question. I forget which employer being sued sustained lost the motion to dismiss. So this thing is not going to go away, and we're going to see how it plays out. Other points to consider, obviously, cybersecurity. The Department of Labor is going to focus on it. We have some guidance now. see more and more Department of Labor Enforcement. We've seen some litigation dealing with it. I'm always concerned about TPAs that are just going to accidentally pay people out. I've had situations in the past where people have claimed not to get their distribution. I had that one time with a union pension plan. Guy said somebody took my check, went to a check cashing place, and stole the money from my account. And of course, check cashing places have cameras, and we saw that it was the participant cash check. Unless he had an evil twin brother, but that's something out of the soap opera. But he didn't have an evil twin brother. But it's important to have a cybersecurity policy. It's important to make sure that your TPAs that the plan sponsors work with also have a policy in place. Make sure they're properly insured for it. I started back in the day when everything was with paper or phone. Now everything you can ask for distribution online, get everything online, and the easier it is to access a count is easier to steal. That's just really how it is. Consolidation, this business is going to continue. We see it on the RA side. We see it on the TPA side. Bigger companies aren't as fast as smaller ones. To generate the greatest amount of revenue, larger companies want to prune away small plans or lines of business that don't generate enough of return. Like, for example, I've seen it where TPAs, they want to be in the 401k plan space. While it's profitable, they don't see any growth in what we call balance forward, profit sharing, money purchase, defined benefit plans, and they just sell off that part of the business. And of course, with consolidation, people are placed on waivers because the first thing businesses do is they eliminate any redundant positions. We see that, a buddy of mine, fund company, DCIO, he did well for himself, became the national DCIO director, but for other people, it didn't work out so well. If you're not large as a plan provider, it's not a bad thing. It's an opportunity. I think marketing to me is see what the competition does and do what that is unique. I work for law firms. I hated the billable hours. So I said, you know what? I'm going to charge a flat fee for everything. Everything but a plan audit. And that works out. Law firms have fancy offices. I work out of my house. So, you just try to do things differently, communication, writing articles. That's how I was able to be, even a place like here. This isn't the cola business where you got Pepsi and Coke. I still can't find RC Cola except for Walmart, but there's plenty of business for everybody. So it's not a business where only the top two do well. There's plenty of space for everybody. Secure 2.0 amendments are delayed until 2026. Secure 2.0, this is a big deal for me, I think. How many times I would get asked about a simple IRA and trying to convert with it into a 401k plan, but we have that crazy rule that a simple IRA had to be the exclusive plan for an employer. Now we have the switch that allows them to transition it within the year. Makes things a lot easier. Simple IRAs, that's another growth space for PEPs as well. In my opinion, simple IRAs are a nice thing, except when you have employees and you want to give yourself employer contribution, and it's got to be the same percentage amount and whatnot. Or it's just, to me, the flexibility of a 401k plan. Yeah, you have an ADP test, but more opportunity to save, more help. I had a SEP plan, and if you have a SEP plan with one of the large custodians, you're left to die. You get absolutely no support. Same thing with a solo 401k plan. And really pushing, we got a virtual conference I'm going to do in January. I'll probably inundate you with emails and stuff. We're doing live events off in Texas, Arlington, Texas. We do 2-3 live events a year. 2019, I was at Dodger Stadium. We had Steve Garvey as my guest. That was a lot of fun. I know Steve's now running for the Senate over there. We will try to be in Anaheim, California next year for an event at Anaheim Stadium. We'll see the schedule. My son is the scheduler, and when the MLB schedule comes out, we'll see where we go for Anaheim, Atlanta as well, and Washington, D.C. And last but not least, contact me. Free answers most of the time. Text to, just no text change, please. And that's I think my favorite scene from this whole entire year, with Larry complaining that he was on the text chain. Like I said, take down my contact info. Ever have a question, that's fine. And like I said, please no text chains. And that's it. If there are any questions, Let me stop the share. And if there are any questions, we'll take questions.
There's a
Okay.
Q&A box at the bottom for anyone that wants to utilize it.
Yeah, we could take questions
Awesome.
if you have any. Oh, there we do. I like that. Forfeitures, plan expenses, it's admin TPA costs. I mean, but it could theoretically be any type of plan expenses, reasonable plan expenses. It could be advisor costs, but obviously advisor gets paid no matter what every quarter. So again, it's anything related to the administration of the plan. So that's really it. I mean, theoretically, if they had a plain document fee and they wanted to use that to pay, that would be reasonable as well. You can't use it to pay excise taxes. So if they had a late deferral deposits and they had to file 5330, or they had a voluntary compliance program situation where they had to pay the IRS a fee because they didn't properly restate their plan, that would be an acceptable plan expense. But if you ever Google, go on the Google machine. I believe it's still the Groom Law Group has this really nice explanation of what they consider allowable plan expenses.
So don't forget also plan audit fees. Would that then also apply then, Ari?
Yes, for those who have plan audits. Most of my plans don't have audits, but yes, that would be an allowable plan expense. And does the sponsor's no choice in how they allocate cost matter if they're paying all admin expenses already? Would offering offsite match increase? Yeah, that's a great question. If the plan sponsor, in the ideal world, the plan sponsor pays plan expenses, and if they pay plan expenses out of pocket, we don't have really an issue with reasonableness. If they want to pay the TPA a lot more money, they can, because it's not the plan participants' money. There's obviously a lot more leeway. So even in that situation, I still like to reallocate. I don't like to reduce employer contribution, but it's going to be less of an issue if the plan sponsor pays out of pocket, and so therefore the forfeitures, there are no plan expenses to pay. So so to me, again, we don't live in an ideal world, but in an ideal world, the plan sponsor pays all expenses, and then we don't have to worry about forfeitures using it and plan participants paying more money because the employer used it to reduce employer contributions. Great question. Why would a plan sponsor still have a money purchase plan? Yeah, money purchase plans are a lot better than the 8-track tape. Now, I don't understand why anybody has an 8-track tape. I still don't understand why people use records. They say it sounds better, and I'm 52 now. I still don't know how to use a record player, and that was the method of choice. Why do we have money purchase plans? Really, we call them in the retirement plans, we still now call them annuity plans. So if you have a lot of unions where they phased out their defined benefit plans, they actually still have money purchase plans where they give a contribution. I actually work as an attorney for a school board. For a school, and per the union contract, they have a money purchase plan. So yeah, why? They were a great thing up until 2002. Fong probably remembers, but back in the old days, in 2002, there was a limit as to what what employer could deduct on a profit sharing plan side. And if I recall, it was 15%. It was 15% of compensation. And the craziest part of the rule was, for you youngsters, you used to count deferrals towards the 15%, which absolutely made no sense. So when I first started the 401k plan, I actually had to cut back on my 401k because I was the only employee working for this law firm, and my deferrals were counting towards that 15%. So what they did was they had what we called paired plans. The profit sharing plan would have a 15% contribution, and then the money purchase plan would have 10%. And like with CDs, compact discs, we got rid of the 8-tracks, we got rid of the records, but now we sell more records than CDs these days. And that was why we had a paired plan. And those worked well. And then in 2002, we merged them all, except for the TPAs out there who wanted double fees and didn't tell their plan sponsors that they could have one plan instead of two. Yeah. So yes, that was the method. We love those money purchase plans, but like I said, they're still around because again, a lot of these union plans, they want to have that set contribution, and they use the money purchase plan to get that. Yeah, I'm a fast talker. Yes, I'm from Brooklyn, and we talk really, really fast. There will be a replay. It's been recorded. So reach out to Fong or Dave. I will send them a copy. I think that you can maybe if you go back to the sign up page, it may be available for on demand later. And I'll talk to Fong and Dave. Maybe we put this on YouTube. Yeah, I do talk really, really fast, and I apologize. That's the Brooklyn and me. At least you didn't
The
hear
New
the
Yorker.
and at least you didn't even worse, at least you didn't hear a Long Island accent, because that's the worst accent of all. If you hear that daily, you'll go nuts. Sorry for anybody from Long Island, but yeah, it's the worst accent of all.
Good thing we're SoCal folks on here, so
Well,
awesome.
half of Florida is from New York, so you never know.
True. There's been definitely all the intermixing nowadays after COVID. People are moving all over. So anyhow, I think we are then we're good there on questions. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. Thank you, Ari, Dave, for your partnership, and we hope you all enjoy. And
Got one more question that popped up.
Oh, did it?
Mike, Richter, or Lundquist? That's a great question. If you check Twitter or whatever, I saw them all at a event in March. So I saw Richter, Lundquist, I saw Shesterkin, Rempe, Fox, Phil Esposito, Jimmy Veazey, and Keandre Miller. But I like Richter. Reason I like Richter is he won a Stanley Cup and King Henrik did not. But I saw King Henrik. I love his hair, and he was wearing Lacoste sneakers. And I congratulated. I love Lacoste. Next to Vineyard Vines, and yeah, I'm a Richter guy. Sorry.
Awesome. Thank you, Ari. Thanks everyone for joining today.
You got it. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.